let's just start with the churches. Yes, there are those who are happy that you've eased restrictions on churches. But there are those who are saying it's not fair. Why places like restaurants, hotels, those that provide employment and livelihoods are still closed when churches are allowed to operate?
Well, we have been in consultation with the churches for a very long time. The proposals that we made the announcements on have been in discussion and in thorough consultation for quite a long time. And they came forward with their own proposals with regard to norms and standards, how they would manage the whole process of social distancing, ensuring that the health protocols are observed, and ensuring that we adhere to the broad and general regulations in level 3. And having heard them, and having made sure that they are going to be able to take responsibility themselves to adhere to all those regulations, we thought that the first point they raised about wanting to be regarded as essential workers, that they wanted to cancel their members, was a fair point, because a number of people are distressed. They need quite a lot of assistance, counseling, and the psychosocial aspect is something that is also important during the period of the COVID-19. So we acceded to that. And having listened very carefully to how they will craft their norms and standards and how they will encourage good behavior amongst their members and worshippers, we felt that we could accede. And we were assured that we would have social distancing in the churches and that those who get into the building would be limited to 50 and all that. So that has been in discussion for a long time. The restaurateurs have only come to us just recently, and we are giving consideration to their views. We met with the restaurateurs, the hoteliers, the casino managers or owners and all that. So we are listening to all that. And one of the important things with the way we are managing COVID-19 is the process of consultation. We are discussing matters whether we just don't want to impose anything on the various sectors of our economy and of our society.
You have made it clear as president, yourself as government, that people over 60 must ideally stay at home. And the nature of the churches is that it's generally older people, and people normally sing. The question that is really on people's minds is, how will this social distancing be done in churches when people, for example, are taken over by spirits? And so how is that going to work? Are we not endangering the vulnerable anyway?
Well, the churches themselves are in a process of counseling their members that those who are over 60 pray at home. They are also inserting another provision that singing should not be the order of the day. They should rather listen to taped music, cassettes, and what have you. And the usual dancing that you see in some of our churches should also be limited or curtailed. So I'm rather pleased with the way in which the church, the religious community, is finding ways of managing this. I've just heard that the Zion Christian Church, for instance, has said that they are not going to open. It's something that we welcome because they deal with much larger numbers. So there is self-regulation at that level. And I think that those many other types of churches may well go that way as well. Many people have said, trust the people of South Africa. And leaders have also said, trust us. So we are putting our trust in the people of South Africa. And of course, where we see that that trust is misplaced, government will act. We will intervene. For instance, if we find that some congregations go way beyond the numbers that have been agreed with them, we will intervene and we will act and we will close those places.
Just to get it very clear, Mr. President, I don't want to misinterpret you. So churches, by their nature, draw large crowds. And people don't necessarily get invited. Let's say in Vosloorus, for example, one church, 105 people will simply show up. What happens to the remaining 55? So does the state intervene to stop them, or the church itself? Will there be enough capacity from the part of the state really to deal with these situations around the country?
The intervention we've made has been at the instance and at the request of the churches. And they have said, we are going to be able to self-regulate. And they have said, trust us. And we expect that when they are opened, no more than 50 will be allowed into any church building. So if 105 show up, 55 cannot be allowed in. And if that happens, and if we see that that is happening, definitely that church, that congregation is violating the rules. And so therefore, action will be taken without any fail, because we've got to preserve the safety of all the people of South Africa. So in that case, yes, we will intervene and act. And we should be able to do that throughout, because we have deployed our officers throughout the country, and we will be watching this space very carefully.
Moving on to schools reopening on Monday, and some people going to work, perhaps 8 million if our estimates are correct. There's a great fear in some people's minds to say, we are opening up the economy whilst the numbers are rising. So will we be able, I mean, is this the right thing to do at this stage? Why can't we wait a month perhaps to see if we are able to stop or reduce the curve? I mean, last night, Mr. President, you know very well, I think we increased by 1,600 somewhere there, which is the largest by far. And then a day after tomorrow, they back to school. There's great fear. What's your assurance?
Well, there is obviously great anxiety in the nation about coronavirus. And as we proceed forward, we are having to balance quite a number of things. The Medical Advisory Committee that the minister set up advises that the lockdown has served its purpose. It has reduced and leveled the curve. We would have been in a much worse position had we not had the lockdown. And we accept that. So that curve has been lowered. But they've also said, what we've done is to slow down the intensity and the pace of the virus. We are going to see an increase in the virus because that is the nature of the virus. We're going to see more and more people getting infected. But what we now need to do is to rely on the other tools that we've got in our toolbox. The lockdown was the most severe one. It was like the bazooka, the nuclear one. They say that has served its purpose. We now need to look at the other tools. And those other tools largely rely on one, change of behavior by our people. Change of behavior, knowing how to behave, because this virus is going to be with us for a long time, from 18 months maybe to 2 years, even more. And we cannot have a lockdown forever and permanently, because it is damaging the economy, it is damaging livelihoods, and we therefore have had to have a very good balance between saving lives and preserving livelihoods. And this period has enabled us to get ready. And we still have to get more ready, to have more beds, more ICU units, and more medical diagnostic equipment, as well as therapeutics. And all that still needs to be done. So in a sense, we are building this aeroplane as we are flying. There is no textbook that I found at the union buildings on how to manage coronavirus. We are building the ship as it is sailing. And as I've said before, sometimes we'll make mistakes, but we will correct those. But we will hit the mark on many other things that we do.
You have said we as a country need to strike a good balance, livelihoods and lives. But there are those who have come very hard and said, I think the president is no longer taking the advice from science, as he said before. You've just said now the advice from the WHO is that you can start easing restrictions when the numbers are starting to go down. It's the opposite with us, yet we are loosening the restrictions. So is it the strong lobby group that we are following, or are we still being guided by science, given the situation on the ground?
We are being guided by science, without any doubt. Science continues to guide us. We are following the advice that we are getting from our scientists, and our scientists are on the ground. They are well informed and they are well-renowned world experts. They have their own diverse views, but in the main, they are advising us extremely well. And they have said the lockdown has served its purpose, move to a much lower level. We've listened to that. And if we were to take the advice, we would immediately just open up everything. But at the same time, we still have rising infections. We still need to get ready. We still need to lower the infections or manage the infections in Cape Town, in Ekurhuleni, in Tshwane, in eThekwini, and Ilembe. And as we do that, we've also got to manage the economic collapse that we are seeing. So there is just no way that we're abandoning the scientific approach, scientific advice that we've been given. We are seeking to manage this as carefully as we can.
At some point you were supposed to visit, and the infections, in fact, I think 65% of the country's infections are in Cape Town. So anytime, are you moving to Cape Town to offer support anytime soon? Yes,
I will be going to Cape Town this coming week. I will be in Cape Town, and we are going to go there with the Minister of Health, and we'll be spending a lot of time with the Premier, with the MEC for Health. And so we are going to shine a torch on Western Cape and see how best we can support them and assist them to ensure that we manage COVID-19 in Cape Town. So that is going to be attended to. Similarly, the other areas that are also hotspots are going to come under a big microscope, and we will be focusing on them.
You touched on the advisory committee earlier. So there does appear, well, from the outside, a bit of a tussle between the politicians and the scientists, and or amongst the scientists themselves. So what do you make of this, Mr. President? Do you think the politicians want to take the shine of the scientists, or the scientists want to do their work unhindered, or the scientists can't agree themselves, given what we've seen play itself out in public? So what is your take?
I am told that scientists, like politicians, like religious people, they differ. There are many differences. and they have diverse views, and diverse views are to be welcomed. They must never be silenced. They are to be welcomed. People must express themselves in whatever way. And we have said that the Medical Advisory Committee has been advising government extremely well, and they continue to do that. And we welcome everybody's input on that Medical Advisory Committee, including the recent ructions that we had, which have now been solved. They've been solved, and that is now behind us, and they are united in their purpose in giving us advice. So I see no problem, and there's really no issue between scientists and politicians. We take our cue from what the scientists are saying. Why is that so? Because they are experts. They have spent their entire lives studying what we are having to manage. So they advise. They are an advisory body. And of course, when they give advice, we've got to take other things into account. And they would advise that abandon every level. And we would say, we have to get ready. We have to get entirely ready throughout the country. So therefore, the elements of the restrictions must remain.
Do you think the restrictions under level 3 are appropriate, or we've already jumped into level 2 given the kind of activity that we already see in the country?
The level 3 restrictions, as they will be allowed, the regulations, are appropriate for the moment that we are in now. Being at level 3 already means that we are looking forward to going to level 2. But we must bed down level 3. And I would say people should now focus on level 3. All of our focus must be on level 3. And all our focus will be on the hotspots to make sure that the hotspot areas you comply with the restrictions as they are, including the additional health protocols that we are going to impose on those hotspots. And once all that is working, we will then be ready to move to level 2. And I'd like to say to the nation that we are not permanently going to be on level 3. We are going to migrate to another level. Even those who are hankering for tobacco, they must know that it is only a matter of time before their hankering is assuaged or addressed.
Are you not worried that the opening up of liquor could pose a further burden on the preparedness of our hospitals, as you've indicated, given that we know that when some people have taken alcohol, they behave in a different way, and there's a lot of emergency it's proven that has happened.
Well, what I do know in navigating our way around COVID-19, that everything we do is a risk. We're taking lots of risks, and we're trying to manage risk right from the beginning. When we imposed the lockdown, it was a major risk, and it has turned out okay. And as we moved to level 4, that too was a risk. Now we're at level 3. It is also a risk. And all I've been saying is that we must trust our people. My trust in our people is still there. We trusted our people to behave in a different way, wearing masks. Wherever I go now, I see people wearing masks. They're washing their hands. Nobody in our country has shaken the hand of anybody that I know of. And people no longer hug. And that, to me, has instilled a continued level of trust. And even with opening alcohol, I am also storing my trust in our people that we will be able to do it in a responsible way, and it will be for home consumption. So the social distancing It's still a challenge, particularly because of the spatial architecture of our country. That is a given challenge. It's our apartheid legacy. But as for the most, we can still manage COVID-19. Even in the hotspots, we are going to manage it and have it much more reduced and reduce the risks that we continue taking on an ongoing basis.